Hey there, it's Friday and I'm going to make a little video. I went to an auction today. That's unusual because Friday auctions are unusual nowadays. But I don't know what the reasoning was behind it. Robinson had an auction today down in Orleans, and I had it on Friday instead of Wednesday this week. Got a can of paint here. On the bottom it says George's Gateway, True Value, and it's got the formula for mixing this paint. On the top, it's all rusty, you can't hardly read it, but it says Bowman Brown. There's a story behind that. Didn't know that story was going to come up, but went to an auction today, like I said. And the auction was for a friend of mine. A lot of us called him Big Dog. His name was Gary Bowman. He was my friend for a lot of years. I don't know, a couple of months ago he finally lost his battle with cancer, and he passed on, and his wife was having a sale today. Some of his things. Just a mixture of all kinds of things, tools, tractors. I looked the sale over online and first looked at it, didn't think I'd go. Wasn't much there to interest me. And I got to thinking I might find something. I didn't know whether other people's things were going to be in there or not. A lot of times you get down there and there's things that you didn't see in the ad. And that happened today. Now, I don't know why this happened. There was a primitive pew there. I don't know, thing's about 8 feet long. And it was sitting there against the wall, and I don't remember seeing it in the ad, and I don't think it was in the ad. It should have been, but it wasn't. I'd have been there for sure if I'd known that pew was there. But I didn't, and when I got down there, I was looking around, and I saw this pew. And I thought, I'm going to buy that. And I knew I had this can of paint. I'd seen this can of paint over the years. I'm not sure it's paint anymore. It's probably solid in there. I can't get it to act like paint. Haven't had that lid off in forever. But George's Gateway, I used to go down there and they mix paint for me. And I had a project and I need to paint a certain color, need to match a paint that I had. I'd go down there. And there was a guy down there, he was good at it. A lot better than I've been able to find since George's Gateway isn't there anymore. This guy could match anything I took him just about. He took great pride in being able to do that. And he made me this paint. I probably purchased and been the owner of well over 100 primitive church pews. If you don't know what a primitive church pew is, I'm going to explain it to you. I've got a video out there somewhere about primitive pews, but I'm going to go over it again for the sake of this video, and there'll probably be a picture of this pew in this video before it's over with. A primitive church pew is one that was made probably around the middle 1800s. Maybe before that, maybe after that, 20, 30 years, either way. But they erected the church, or they built the church, or they established the church, and they made their own pews. And generally what they made them out of was trees that were there on the property where the church was. And around here, most of those trees that they used for that were yellow poplar. And I just love to get those old, wide, yellow poplar boards. And I bought primitive church pews for that reason for years and years. And what I usually do with them is I take them and I cut them down. If they're long enough, I cut them in two. If they're too long, I might cut them in three. But I make about a 42-inch short pew out of them, move the ends in. I take two and make one, or I said that backwards. I take one and make two, and then I take the ends off of the second one to complete the second short one I've made. And that leaves me with the seat and the back and sometimes the skirt, long, wide, primitive boards. Very often hand planed, sometimes not even planed on the bottom of the seat. But when they are planed on both sides, they're usually old hand planed, about an inch, inch and an eighth, inch and a quarter thick poplar boards. And I have made some magnificent jelly cupboards and pie safes and step back cupboards and crock benches, all kinds of really cool, neat things that you can make when you got that kind of material to work with. And when you sell the pew, the shorter one, they even most of the time would sell better than the long ones, and you can get more money for them than you could the long ones. So you doubled your money right off the bat by taking one, turned it into two smaller ones. And I've done that lots of times. And about 30 years ago, I did that on a situation where I bought two pews from a guy, and that guy was Gary Bowman. And Gary, when he was a boy, lived in Williams, or close to Williams, between Williams and Silverville, and there was a Hard Rock Baptist Church there. I think the name of it is Indian Creek Baptist Church, little country church. Gary went to church there. And even after he was an adult, he went to church there. And finally, that little church, as a lot of them do, it closed, ceased to operate as a church. But Gary was still involved with it. He was kind of the caretaker of the place. And his wife told me today they cut the grass there for 26 years. But this was maybe 25, 30 years ago when that church was closing down, and Gary and some of the people associated with the church were trying to raise some money for whatever it was, I don't remember. It had to do with the church and keeping the church preserved and taken care of. And so they were selling the primitive church pews from within the church. That color you're looking at, it's a color I call Bowman Brown. It's kind of a pumpkin looking color. Right there's a little note that was attached to it. It says church pew from Indian Creek Primitive Baptist Church between Williams and Silverville. I own it now. Bought it today. Paid too much money, but it's the only way I was going to own it. And Gary, knowing I like that kind of thing, he attempted to sell me some of those pews. Now, he wanted more for them than I was willing to pay. Although today, I don't know whether I said this already or not, but if I did, I'm going to say it again. Today, I paid twice as much, more than twice as much, for that primitive church pew that I bought today than I'd ever paid for a primitive church pew in my entire life. Say, look, why'd you do that? And I said, well, I had to. It's an auction, and I wanted that church pew. More than twice as much than I'd ever paid before. Let me go on with the story, and you might begin to understand why I did that. Gary's trying to sell me these pews, and he and I both worked at Central Foundry then. And he had told me all about what he was doing. He was trying to sell his pews. And finally, he came up to me one day and he said, look, I've sold all those pews, but just a few. And he said, I can't seem to sell the rest of them. He said, would you like to buy the last two? that I have, and if you would, I'd sell them to you for, and he named a price that he would take. And it's still more than I wanted to pay for them, but I said, Gary, I'll come and look at them. So I did. Went over to his house. There they sat. There was 3 of them. I said, there's 3 of them. He said, yeah. He said, I want to keep one of them. He said, I went to church, that little church, when I was a boy. He said, I want to keep one of them. He said, but I'll sell you 2 of them for. And I said, I tell you what, I'm going to take them. And I took those pews, and I can't tell you where they are. I can tell you what happened to them, because here it is. Here's the evidence of what happened to them. I cut them down I cut one of them down, made 2 out of it like I always do, and I took them boards and I made something else out of it that I needed this paint for. But what I made, I don't know. Where it went, I don't know that either. But today, when I saw that pew sitting there against the wall, the color of this paint, I knew it was that one pew that Gary had saved, and I decided I was going to buy it. In fact, I was telling the guy there. First, I told Rita. I said, Rita, I got a can of paint at home from when I bought those other pews from Gary, and it says Bowman Brown on the top of it. I saw it just the other day when I was going through my paint. Almost threw it away. But now that I see that pew and remember the story that I just told you, I'm gonna try to buy that pew today. And I told another guy, I was sitting back there in the back when I expected to have to wait till near the end of the sale to buy it, but I went back there and sat down, talking to a couple other guys that I've dealt with over the years, and they moved the thing up there and had some pictures on it, some paintings, and they sold choice on those until and then they got ready to sell that pew, and I thought, wow, my lucky day, they're going to sell that thing. I won't have to wait around till 2 or 3 o'clock this afternoon to buy it. And I told the guy sitting there, I said, I'm going to buy that pew. He said, I don't know. He said things are going pretty high today. He said, you may not get it bought. I said, I'm going to get it bought. I want it. He said, well, he said, I don't see Doug. Doug's not here today. I said, Doug wouldn't get in my way on that. I'm willing to pay more today than Doug would have paid for that. He said, well, you may buy it then. I said, yeah, I will. I got money in my pocket. I want that pew. I'm going to leave with it. So they started in. Stephen did, trying to sell it. He got a bid from back over in the back there from somebody. And somebody over here was bidding. I sat there and waited a minute till it slowed down. I think they got up to about $50 or $60. And it looked like it was slowing down. Maybe they're about ready to sell it, so I bid. Stephen, he took my bid, and the bidding had slowed down a little bit. He begged and got a bid over here, and then this guy over here quit, and so I bid again. He begged a little longer, and got another bid, and I bid again. Finally got to the place where I had the bid, and he should have sold it to me. But he didn't. He just kept on and on until he finally got a $5 more bid than what I'd bid. And I did my usual thing. I stopped and looked at him, and I intended to stick with my usual thing, not reward him for doing what he done. He said something to me. I don't remember what he said, but he said something to me that acknowledged that he was probably on the same wavelength as me. He knew why I was acting like I was acting. And I told him then, I said, you should have sold it to me. And I don't think he could hear me from, I was in the back, he's in the front. But finally I decided, you know what? I want that pew. I hate to reward him for doing that. But I guess I'll just go ahead and buy the pew anyway. Stephen can win once. So I bet $5 more, and then he Turned around, the other guy was bidding, and he tried to get him to bid 5 more again, but he didn't. And I bought the pew. Primitive, yellow poplar, well constructed, square nails from the mid-1800s. Church pew. Now I decided, you know what, I got 2, I think. I got 1 for sure of the shallow pews from the early to mid-1800s out at Eureka Church, shallow church. I got 1 of those. I got another one that might be one of those. I'm not sure. And then I got 1 from the old church in Leesville, Indiana, one of the county's oldest settlement. There was a bunch of primitive pews in that church, and I bought 1 a long time ago, probably 40 years ago. I bought it from Dr. Buchanan, dentist here in town, was my dentist. Bought it from him. He'd got it from Leesville, that church. That church since burned some old cupboards and other stuff in it. Just sad that they're gone, but I've got that pew. And I got some others. But I know where those 2 came from, and now I know where this one came from. So I got 3 historic Lawrence County churches. I may just start myself a collection. May make a card and put on them what they are and where they come from. I know I'm probably not going to sell this one and make any money because I gave too much for it for selling it again. I mean, I might make a little bit, but not enough to justify going down there after it and hauling it home. I'm not going to cut it up. It's the last one of its kind that I know of. Got a church pew. Bought it today. I'll just use it to tell that story about this paint and that church pew and about my friend Gary Bowman. Till the next time, hope you enjoyed this story. I'm a Hard Times guy. Have a good day.